So I want to thank everybody for getting on our Facebook Live page this evening. This is a new and I think an exciting initiative our local is taking. What we're doing is encouraging our members to get on Facebook and ask questions and provide comments. This is something our local has just started doing. It's more of like a pilot program. Our president, Mike McGaha, has given us permission to move forward with this. Brian Lewis, our communication director, and I have coordinated it to have it this evening at 7 o'clock. One of the reasons we have it at 7 o'clock is that's where Brian Lewis is saying most of our traffic on Facebook is around 7 p.m. So we want to get as much publicity as possible. This is something that our local union is going to do in addition to our membership meetings, our parking lot meetings, our Facebook page, all the other initiatives we take to try to educate our members. We think it's important to get out to the members in every way possible to provide them information, to provide them education, and to get them more engaged in their local union. It's so important to be involved, engaged, and educated with your local union. That is what makes our union powerful. So we're going to find every way possible. These are recommendations that we've gotten from members on how we can be more interactive, how we can get more involved, and how we can get the membership more involved. And I can't emphasize enough the importance of educating yourself on the contract. One reason we are emphasizing UPS is because of the amount of harassment that the company does towards our members, and it's so important to understand and know the contract. So in that way, you have any questions regarding the contract, please visit the Facebook page and comment on the Facebook page or ask questions. Again, you can text my phone number at 919-427-1300. So you can start asking questions now, providing comments. I have my phone here. Brian is on our Facebook page, so he'll be looking for questions through our Facebook page. Any comments, any questions, you can provide them now, and we will do our best to answer your questions. And going on that note, it looks like we have about 20 or 30 people on, but we did a parking lot meeting this morning in Raleigh. We have one scheduled tomorrow in Durham at 8 a.m. So Tim Brown and Rodney Parrish and Dante Kelly will be there tomorrow in our parking lot meeting. So if you're in Durham, parking lot meeting tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. In Cary, we're going to have a parking lot meeting again at 8 a.m. The stewards over there, Nick Alessi and Kevin Coates are organizing that. So those are the parking lot meetings that we're going to have this week. We continue to have parking lot meetings, so we think that's a very effective way to educate our members. They are just going into work. It's a very short 5, 10, 15-minute meeting where we can kind of explain to them updates on what the local union is doing, answer questions they may have regarding their contract and their rights. So those parking meetings have become more and more popular, and we're going to reach out and do more of them. In fact, the local union has started an initiative where we are going to have all the business agents from UPS, Mike Bentley in Greensboro and Chris Vaughn in Greensboro and Doug Irving in the East, who's out of Wilmington, myself, Moses Darden, our organizer. We're going to all team up and try to hit 1 or 2 of the UPS centers each month to just show our solidarity. That's so important to have that solidarity and kind of get people more involved and educated about the union. We have a contract coming up about 18 months away, August 1st of 2023. The contract expires, so we'll probably start negotiating in the next 3 or 4 months here. Or at least providing proposals. I don't know exactly when the proposal or when the negotiations will start, but our local union will probably have a proposal meeting in the next few months. So if you can think of proposals or any ideas or suggestions, now is the time to start writing them down, and we'll have the meeting in the next few months to prepare for contract negotiations. Mike Webb asks a question: can you address the discussion that took place at the Raleigh meeting about the issue in Southern Pines representation issues? Yeah, we had a Raleigh membership meeting this past Saturday. An ex-steward came up and provided some comments. He had some concerns about his charges that he filed against another steward. Those concerns he addressed. Basically, he had filed charges against another shop steward for accusing that shop steward of trying to have him disciplined. The executive board heard that charge. The shop steward, from his testimony, stated that he never tried to get the member disciplined in any way. They did go into an office with the manager. There was no intent from that steward to have him disciplined. That steward never used any words like workplace violence or anything to have him disciplined from his testimony. So the executive board made a decision to remind that steward not to bring any member into management, but we also did not remove him as a steward. That was never requested from a member, and that's something that we take very seriously. Shop steward is a serious job. A shop steward's position is elected by the members. I'll remind you that that's something that our local union takes very seriously. The opinion of our members is very, very valued within our local union and within our executive board. So at no point do we want to overturn their decision and remove a shop steward unless he commits an egregious act. So we did not think this was an egregious act. He did make a mistake by discussing an issue with a manager. It did not lead to any discipline, and we just advised that steward to refrain from ever bringing in another brother into management, and if they have issues, to bring in front of his business agent or another shop steward. So that explains. It was a good meeting on Saturday. It was a lot of feedback from the membership, a lot of positive feedback, some obvious concerns. We're always going to have concerns as a local union. That's our job, is to address concerns and issues, and again to educate the members on what those issues are and how we can resolve specific issues and concerns. Some we can, some we can't. I mean, that's what our duty is to do the best we can to resolve issues from our members. Looks like we're up to 30 viewers. So again, if you have questions, please either text them to me. Again, 919-427-1300, or you can comment on our Facebook page. Just any questions at all, we're open for any type of feedback, questions, concerns. We encourage our members to provide that for us. One concern at these parking lot meetings that we're having, but one concern that we're getting is the 22-4s and just the problem they're creating. These 22-4s have created a huge problem in the fact that UPS has initiated it, or the way they negotiated the 22-4s was probably in bad faith, because they indicated they would not go over 25%, and that the number of 22-4s working on Saturday would be limited. And it seems to me that the company, well, it's very clear, the company is requiring more than what they committed to in negotiations as far as working on Saturdays. So that has become a big problem. A lot of the regular package car drivers, the drivers that should only be working through Monday through Friday, are now being forced to work on Saturday. So that's something that's an ongoing problem. You have regular package car drivers working on Saturdays when they were told they would not have to. So we're addressing that in several fronts. I mean, the contract very clear. If you can't report to work, you call 1 hour before your start time. So that's one way that the package car drivers have an option. I mean, if they're required to work, they can always call in. Now the company can't just fire them if they call in. That's against the contract. They would not be able to do that. They could potentially go to progressive discipline, but the local union will fight and protest any discipline issued for an employee who calls in on their scheduled day off and says he cannot report to work. So that issue is going to be ongoing. We're all discussing different strategies to address that issue. I've reached out to the company and have inquired about hiring additional 22-4s to resolve that issue of RPCDs reporting to work on Saturdays and having more 22-4s report to work on Saturday. So that's something ongoing. There's another strategy we've considered, and this is something I want to encourage all our members. We talk about solidarity, and one way to really get back to the company is if all of these RPCDs that are being told to come to work on Saturday, if they all report to work and demand their 8 hours, their guaranteed 8 hours, then they would absolutely be get paid their 8 hours, and the company probably would have very little work for them to do. So it is important to know your rights, understand your contract, and live by them. So I think that'll help reduce the number of RPCDs coming in on Saturdays if everybody gets their 8 hours and in essence demands their 8 hours, that they get 8 hours of work, and that's what the contract reads. If they report to work, they're entitled to 8 hours of work and 8 hours of pay. As we approach this new contract, and negotiations, one priority, I know Sean O'Brien has mentioned it, and I believe it's an important priority, is to eliminate the 22-4s. We really need to get rid of those 22-4s. It's created such a problem, and that was one of the main issues in these upcoming negotiations, or major proposals that I know the union is going to be asking for, is the elimination of 22-4s. We got a question from, looks like Brian and Amber Odom. I have an issue with COVID pay. All I have received so far is an email stating it's been received, but there is no timetable for the decision. Can you explain some of the issues with COVID pay? So, yeah, it's a good question, because I've seen that a lot. We've gotten a lot of questions regarding COVID pay. And the company signed an MOU about 2 years ago agreeing that the members would receive, or the employees would receive 10 days of COVID pay if the employee is out because of COVID or a family member has COVID. So if you have not received it, the best thing you should do is just file a grievance. With UPS, unfortunately, a lot of these issues, so much of it gets swept under the rug. So it's so important to file the grievance. You're entitled to those 10 days. They try their best to not pay people COVID pay or whatever the violation is. They do their best into not paying people. So file the grievance and go through the grievance process. You will get paid. It may take time, but I encourage you to file the grievance. I'm not sure. I have some grievances up here. This is one that looks like it. Technically, COVID pay is not in the contract, but there is an MOU signed off. So when it says the nature of complaint, say COVID pay MOU and fill that out, and that issue should be resolved. And just got a message from Daniel Rogers. Thank you, Rick. This is a good forum, and I'm glad you like it. We're going to continue to do this if this turns out to be successful. From Mike Webb, can the local 391 website post the IBT Constitution contracts and 391 bylaws? I'll talk to Brian Lewis about that. Mike, the only issue that we have with posting so much of that information online, and even doing things like this, it gets in the hands of people that are not dues-paying members. And quite frankly, I don't really feel like it's our obligation or our duty to represent, or to at least give non-members the ability to read our bylaws, read our Constitution. That's for the members, the dues-paying members, and anybody who wants to, email or contact a local, we can certainly provide them with the bylaws and the Constitution. And I think the contract's pretty easy to find online. Renee Carter is asked the question. I understand someone brought up the issue of Zoom membership, monthly meetings in Raleigh. Any update on this? Yes, we are still talking about Zoom membership meetings. That's under discussion. Again, you want to look at these things very carefully and take them into serious consideration, because there's always could be some negative. We did Zoom meetings. That's what we have done over the past year during COVID. One thing we did notice with the COVID and with the Zoom meetings is that the turnout was much lower. When we did things on Zoom, with the Raleigh and Greensboro membership meeting, we had a much lower turnout, and that's what our biggest concern is. So we're looking into it. We may try it like we're trying this, but right now we're just a little apprehensive, because we like to have meetings in person. I think that creates more solidarity, more unity. Certainly it takes time out of your day, but to see your fellow brothers and sisters in person, I think is so much more effective than via Zoom. Zoom is not really an effective way to communicate with people. I think in person is probably the most effective and way to really create that solidarity. And let's see if we got Bentley is wanted me to ask Oh, good point. Mike Brentley brought up a point about if UPS tries to use your sick day on a non-scheduled work day, for example, a Saturday, and you're a Monday through Friday driver, that's not contractual. They can't do that. File a grievance, you'll get your sick day back. This happened in Chapel Hill to several drivers. They called out on this on Saturday, which is the scheduled day off, and UPS took their sick day, and we filed grievances and got them their sick days back. So they cannot take out a sick day without the approval of the membership. In some areas, they're trying to tell drivers they can't have anyone laid off drivers. They can't burn days without permission. So also with UPS, you'll see that there might be a layoff day. If you choose to take a voluntary layoff day, that you can take that. They can't burn a personal holiday or a sick day. It's a voluntary layoff day if you choose to be laid off. So that's another important issue that you need to remember. That you don't want any of your days being burned without your permission. Those are your days. You earned them. You have a right to them, and the company can't just take them from you. So be conscientious of that. You may need those sick days. You may need those personal holidays. So don't let them just take them, whether it be a voluntary layoff day or a sick day, or a Saturday where it's not a scheduled work day where they force you in, or even if it's emergency conditions. If it's emergency conditions and you can't report to work, they can't burn a sick day. If it snows outside and you can't get out of your driveway, then you just report that you just call them, and 1 hour before your start time, let them know you can't report to work in those type of situations where it's emergency conditions were called. They cannot burn any entitlement days. So, again, continue to provide comments or questions. We're going to do our best to answer them. It looks like we got 34 people online right now, so any feedback is more than welcome. We're going to be here until 7:30. It's about 20 after 7 right now. We want to answer as many questions as possible, again, to just do the best job we can in educating our members and getting information out to them, because that information is really what makes us strong as a local union, is to know your contract and to enforce your contract. Those two things, you got to know it and you got to enforce it. And if you don't enforce it, UPS will take advantage of you. If you're ignorant on your contract, they will walk all over you. They'll exploit you, and they'll take everything they can from you. So be sure you know your contract, be sure you know your rights, and be sure that you protect your rights by understanding your contract and filing grievances if they're violating your rights. And another thing I encourage all of our members to do is to get the non-members signed up. Obviously, in this type of venue, we can't control if non-members are on. So if you are a non-member, I can assure you being a member has a lot more benefits than not being a member. Probably one of the most important things in being a member is being able to vote on your contract. It's a 5-year contract with UPS, and that's 5 years. The next 5 years, it's very important that you're a part of the union. You can vote on that. Also, with the rights of being a member, you also have the rights to vote for your shop steward, the rights to vote for your business agent, the right to vote for your international president and officers. So all those benefits come with being a member. You have the right to come to a membership meeting and be involved in your local union and provide proposals for the next contract. If you're not a member, you can't provide proposals for your next contract. Freeman Davenport, shop steward at Gateway, he had put questions regarding why do we get a letter for COBRA when we get COVID? Our benefit gets dropped super quick. Yeah, that's a problem that, again, we really need to address. If you have COVID, you should be getting COVID pay, and your health insurance should be being paid. So again, file that grievance. I know with this COVID pay and with UPS, and it seems to me they've pretty much eliminated human resources. So it's so important to file that grievance. You are certainly entitled to team care, your health insurance, while you're out on COVID. But I know of many situations where a manager will code them out, workers' comp or short-term disability, and it's none of those things. It's COVID. You get paid for it. You're entitled to your health insurance, and file a grievance if you don't get that health insurance. Tim Wilson, Is there current contract language that addresses the maintaining of current full-time driver positions after a vacancy occurs? If not, that language needs to be addressed in the next contract to help to avoid the situation we have in Falls River and the Raleigh building. And Tim, you're absolutely right. That language was in the contract, and unfortunately, when we let these 22-4s come in, that problem became exasperated. There is no language that RPCDs need to be replaced. So you're right. In this next contract, the elimination of the 22-4s and going back to where if a driver retires, the company is obligated to fill that position. That absolutely has to be a priority. I know we just got 20 jobs in the Fall Center, but there needs to be probably closer to 40. And I encourage those drivers to continue to file 9-5 grievances. Right now, that's probably the best way to get this company to hire more drivers is file those 9-5 grievances. Last year, the Falls River Center alone had $100,000 in penalty pay for 9-5 grievances. And to that effect, that is why they hired 20 more drivers. So let's keep filing those 9-5s, and we should see more drivers being hired. But I agree with you, Tim. That's something that we need to go back to and make sure the company hires drivers when someone retires. Ben Farris asked the question, if we don't have any COVID days left, can they make us use our it's a good question, Ben. Technically, they probably could begin that process. If you have COVID and you're out sick after you exhausted all your COVID pay, they can attempt to try to take your sick days. But I would certainly argue the fact that if they try to go to progressive discipline when you're out of sick days, you certainly would be able to use sick days when you're sick. Boston George asked a question, what is the protocol about using your own personal phone to contact other drivers to receive work off the truck? This is Scott Reed from Morrisville. So I strongly discourage any driver from using their personal phone. It's your personal phone. I don't think it's a good idea to use your personal phone while you're working on the package car, particularly for work stuff. So that would really, there's no really protocol, but I would strongly discourage it. Renee Lane Carter, I expressed my thoughts against 22-4s at the Raleigh contract reading during the last contract negotiations. It's hard to have solidarity when our union leaders and officials supported the new 22-4 classification. Good point. I think it's Jamie Carter, but I know you've texted me. So I guess the union leadership wouldn't necessarily say support it. I didn't like the 22-4s from the beginning. Nobody enjoyed the 22-4s. The concern from the leadership, and I want to make this point clear because this is one of a basic, very big concern within the leadership is we were concerned, as many people are, that the memberships would not strike. And that is why we're doing what we're doing now is, in essence, we've got to get that vote above 50%. If you have less than 50% of the people voting on a contract, will you get 95% to strike? Because if you don't get 95% to strike, you've lost that strike. That's why we're doing this now, because we've got to get the members engaged. And when you have 45, 46% voting on a contract, and of that, a little over 50% did vote it down, but the concern is the lack of participation. So no, nobody liked these 22-4s. Nobody from the leadership liked it. And at the end of the day, if we vote this contract down, it's got to be over 50%. There was a new bylaw in the Constitution made, and it ultimately said more than 50% of the people have to vote, whether it be up or down. The contract's not going to get ratified unless more than 50% of the people voted on it, and we're not going to strike unless more than 50% of the people vote. So we want to do what the members want, but we got to get the majority of the members to vote. We got to get the majority of the members to be active, and we're not there yet. So that's why we're taking these type of initiatives. But good question. Mike Webb asked, is it necessary for a business agent to travel to Greensboro and Raleigh just to make a few comments? Shouldn't we maximize every opportunity for our representatives to spend time with their families? I think it's important for our members to see all of our leaders. I think if you're referring to the Saturday membership meetings, I think it's vitally important for the Raleigh members to see our Greensboro leaders and business agents. Again, that shows the solidarity. We're together. I think that nothing's going to take away from my time. The most important time I spend is with the members, whether it be in Raleigh or Greensboro. We got to know all our members. It's not just about Raleigh. It's not just about Greensboro. It's about Raleigh, Greensboro, Durham, Chapel Hill, everybody come together. And I don't want the members to have to drive to Greensboro to see me, or to drive, or the members in Greensboro to drive to Raleigh. So yes, once a month, me driving to Greensboro, I don't think that's an issue at all. I enjoy seeing the members there, and I think that's a good thing. Ernie Latta asked a question or comment. I'd like to gain a year of retirement for every 1,800 hours worked. My father was in the IBREW union, and that is how they do it, and it seems like a great system. If you do work 2,400 hours a year, you'd gain every 3 years' work. That could work in favor of our 9-5 and guys who would like to retire early. Good point. I think that's a great idea. Let's get it into a proposal, and we can put it into negotiations coming up. Sergio Polanco asked a question. I was out with COVID, and during that week I had 2 personal day requests. Told supervisor not to grant them because of COVID. He said yes, but at the end I was charged with those 2 days with my personal time off instead of COVID pay. Question: is even when I got paid 2 days with my own personal time, is UPS obligated to still pay me back for those 2 days? If you get one or the other, you're going to get the COVID pay or you get your personal days. But you should, if you're out for COVID, you should get the up to 10 days of COVID pay, and then they should give you your personal days back. All right, this is Maria. Hey, good evening. I am on your live right now, and I was wondering if any consideration has been given to rotating a 4-day work week, Monday through Thursday, Tuesday through Friday, Wednesday through Saturday, with a forced volunteer 5th day. People could choose their preferred schedule based on seniority. I'm sure it's been thought of before, but I wanted to ask anyway. Yeah, there's actually language in the contract that gives the company and the union the ability to agree upon a 4-day week, but we have not gotten a lot of positive feedback from members regarding that. We feel like it's an avenue that the company would use to get out of paying overtime. So that if the members want something like that, we could look at that in the next contract, but it's something we haven't received a lot of positive feedback on. A question regarding the when President McGaha said the recommendation from the IBT auditor was a minimum of 15 for a quorum at general membership meetings. Why are we going for that minimum? So, yeah, it's a good question, Mike. I don't think it was really answered properly at the membership meeting this past Saturday, or as properly as you would have liked it to be. So I'll elaborate. So that was the number that was given to us from the auditor. It wasn't, the auditor said the language, he recommended the language be 15 minimum. We brought that to the bylaw committee. As several members in the bylaw committee, I'm the chairperson of the bylaw committee. We brought that up to the chairperson of the bylaw committee, and the bylaw committee as a full voted to support it, unanimously voted to support it, and it was brought in front of the membership, and they voted by a margin of greater than 2/3 to pass it. So again, we're just listening to the members. That was the recommendation, that was the proposal on the bylaw, and that was what the members passed. That's the bottom line. Again, we're just going to listen to what our members vote on and what they ask for, and that's what we did. Mike Webb asks, so if you want a copy of the local bylaws, come to your local union hall. We can provide you with a copy of the local bylaws. Certainly they're entitled, any member is entitled to those bylaws. And why we don't put it on our website, why we don't put it on Facebook, again, it's just the concern that it gets out to non-members, and we don't feel like they're entitled to our property. I mean, everybody in this union pays dues, and those dues pay for those bylaws books, and I don't want to have free access to anybody who's not a member to be able to read those bylaws and know those bylaws. That's just not, and certainly don't want companies to know what our bylaws say. So we do like to keep some sense of security behind our bylaws and make sure that they're only for our members, our dues paying members. We're approaching 7:30, and it seems like it was somewhat successful. It looks like we have at least 40 people on here. I'll keep it open for a couple more minutes. If anybody has any more questions, again, you could text me at 919-427-1300, or you can just comment on the Facebook page, and and you'll be able to get your questions answered that way also. I'm actually looking down at some of the questions. Let's think. What about COLA for pensions? Why can't we have insurance for life after retirement instead of age 65? So those are all good questions. It's something that we have to talk about in negotiations. The pension does go up in each contract. I think previous contracts it was significantly lower than it is now. So the pension increases do, or the pension does increase. Pension benefits do increase each contract, but certainly we can ask for more in the next contract. The company made a lot of money in this previous or in the current contract in this previous year. They've made a lot of money, so certainly we can fight for more. Whatever the members for, that's what we're going to fight for. But unfortunately, like everybody knows, in proposals, not everybody gets what everybody wants. It's going to have to be, we're going to have to go in negotiations, and quite honestly, the company doesn't want to give anything. They don't want to give they're going to go into negotiations wanting to give away nothing, and only wanting making more, taking advantage of our members more. So understand that this company is adamant on giving as little as possible to their employees, and we're adamant is get as much as possible. But I have said many times before, and I'll say it again, the only way to get the most possible is to get the most people engaged in the local union. That's the bottom line. I know a lot of people want to blame the leadership for this and that, but reality is we got to look at each other, and I'll take some ownership. I'll take responsibility. What's Rick Armstrong doing? I'm doing his Facebook. But ask yourself, what are you doing to get members involved? What are you doing to get people to join the union? You got to ask yourself that, because that's what's going to make us strong. You can look at negotiators, and I don't agree with everything that Dennis Taylor did under this current contract. I certainly don't agree with the 22-4s. But quite frankly, I just don't know if the members were willing to strike. That's my biggest concern. Even parking lot meetings, which I'm doing now. Parking lot meetings is the easiest way to get people involved. And, initially, you'd see 10, 15 people outside of a parking lot meeting. It doesn't give me a lot of confidence that if I have a parking lot meeting and 10 people out of 100 show up, are 100 people going to strike? There's nothing easier than to stand outside of your workplace 10, 20 minutes before you go to work and stand out there and listen to your local union. That's all the local union is asking. And if members can't do that, if they walk by parking lot meetings to get a little information for 4 or 5 minutes, they walk them by a parking lot meeting, what confidence does that business agent have in thinking that member is going to stand on that picket line and strike? And that's the concern that the leadership has, is if people aren't really engaged in their local union, if we're getting 1 or 2% to come to a membership meeting, are these same people, are they going to strike? So I think what's really important is to show the leadership how you feel, and get other members engaged, get them involved, because if we can get 10%, if we can get 10% of our members at a union meeting, we probably have to get them in the union hall. And I'd be the first one on the executive board to say, hey, Mike McGow, we need a union hall. If we can get 10%. Yeah, 10% is probably 800 members at a union meeting, or even if you split it in Greensboro and Raleigh, it's probably 400 each. So the more engaged the members are, the more they're involved they are, the more benefits they'll get out of the local union. That's the bottom line. The more involved you are, the more you put into your local union, the more you will get out of it. There can't be any simpler equation to this whole process. It's just what you put in is what you'll get out of it. And I'm here tonight to try to put more into our local union, to get people more involved, to get people more engaged. We will try any initiatives that we think is going to be effective, that we think could be efficient, that we think is going to educate members, get members involved, and encourage members to participate more in their local union, to attend more membership meetings, to attend more parking lot meetings. Go out there, for all those who are on this Facebook Live page, get out there and tell your brothers and sisters who you work with, join the union, get involved in the union, come to these parking lot meetings. That's the way, that's the confidence we get as the leadership to say, hey, you know what, we're going to get a lot out of this next contract, because our members feel strongly, and there's a lot of them, and they will do whatever it takes to get as much as possible. So I will leave on that note. It looks like we don't have any other questions or comments. So I wish you all a good night. We will look into this, doing other I'm looking at some more questions that we may have coming up here. One thing I did want to say, I know some people are working right now. I was just reading some comments about people are working. So we could try different times. That's a good point, that for those who are working right now, we certainly can try doing this at different times. I know other business agents are considering doing this, but I do think it's an effective way to get out, to reach out to a large number of people, so that we're not repeating ourselves over and over again, and we're using our time as efficiently as possible, getting out this important information. So we've got one more question. I don't want to leave any question unanswered. Hey, Rick, I have a day job, so I can't make 9 a.m. meetings. Can we have some meetings 5 or 6 in the evening? And that's absolutely. We'll look into that, see what feedback we'll get from that, and we'll certainly do something of that nature. I know there's twilight employees, there's midnight. We've got employees that work all at different hours, so that's something we'll also look at. So once again, thank you all for getting on Facebook Live this evening. We'll do this again. Just stay in touch with us. Have a great evening, and like I said, continue to participate in your local union and continue to get other members engaged and active in the union. Thank you. Have a great night.